A Real Bug's Life 2, new season streaming January 15th on Disney+.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Terrell, Race to Head, Big Gold Belt Media. How you doing this morning?
Very good. Thanks, Terrell.
Very well. Thank you.
Or if you're in the same time zone as me, I guess. But yeah. For those who don't know, we're in A Bug's Life season 2. Very happy to get this new season. But for those who don't know you guys already, you mind introducing yourselves and what you're doing on the show?
I am Martha Holmes. I'm the executive producer of the show. Work very closely with Bill.
I'm Bill Markham, series producer on A Real Bug's Life.
And I'm Dr. Tim Cockerill, and I was a scientific consultant all across the series.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, once again, I want to say, like, this is just amazingly shot. Like the camera work here, the quality. I mean, you definitely tell we care with this particular show. They do a really good job on the detail.
I remember Terrell, last time you were worried about those great big spider fangs on 4K in front of you. Have you got over your phobia?
No, this season is a little bit more which I'm happy about, because like we go to beaches, we go to forests, so some of the bugs in here are not as intense to look at. They don't have like 30 eyes, so I'm a little bit calmer about it.
We've lost the spiders and the cockroaches. That's
that's
two of my favorite bits from last time.
Yeah, that was a little too much. I had to go forward a little bit. But I want to talk about one. Whose idea was it for the titles for the show, which the puns and the hilarious for the titles of the episodes?
I think that was a classic case of brainstorming. I have to admit that they've got their fans and their lesser fans. I am not a fan, or I wasn't a fan on Once Upon a Time, but I guess it's going to make people watch it, and other people seem to think it's brilliant, including Martha. So that was hilarious. Love in the Forest. I mean, do bugs really love each other? It's a good question. Tim, that's one for you, really.
Yeah, well, absolutely. In my opinion, they do. I think it sounds appropriate to me. Certainly, well, the characters of bugs certainly fit with that title, I think.
Absolutely. You mentioned Love in the Forest episode. You could have prepared me that the redirect of like who the main character was going to be in the show before they brutally got attacked. That was a little. It just took my heart right out as soon as the episode started.
Well, the funny thing is, because you don't like spiders and you don't like cockroaches, but a lot of people say that fireflies are a gateway bug. You know, they're the beautiful, magical one that does no harm, that entices people into the insect world. But then we turn the tables with one which turns out to be rather brutal. So there you go.
Did you end up liking her or not liking her, or where were you? Where did you end up with the firefly?
I mean, like, I think honestly, I went into this like kind of trying to avoid certain things, but like, obviously, this show is to give more knowledge. And honestly, now that I know more about fireflies and how they are, I kind of a little bit more paranoid about them now. Just seeing, like, usually you're like, oh, you try to catch them, but now you see like you're catching somebody else's lunch at this point, and I don't want to hold on to that. But no, it was really, really, really good episode. Just jumping around, like I said, we go to so many places. We go to the beach, we're in the forest, we're going in the water. Like we have your hermit crabs, your tiger beetles, your damselflies, your lanternflies, your stag beetles. So many to name. Did you guys have any particular favorites that you really just like were really like that really just, what's the word I'm looking for, that you were just stuck with throughout the overall season?
Tim, why don't you go first?
Sorry. Did you have any favorites that you just really had your heart on like throughout the season?
I mean, for me, one of my favorites is the Luna moth in the Love in the Forest episode, because they are so characterful, but at the same time being so graceful and being so packed full of facts as well. So the very fact that the male moths can detect a single molecule of the female's sexual perfume, this thing that she uses to attract males across the forest. Mm-hmm. So that, lots of people imagine moths as just being these very benign, unthinking things that, there's that expression, a moth to a flame. And we see moths, of course, flying outside the window, just banging their head against the window in those summer months. And so I think to see the other side of these insects that not only have all of these facts behind them, but they have real characters as well. And when we see them, they're such beautiful things, but characterful things too. So yeah, the Luna moth kind of encapsulates all of that for me.
Okay, for me it's dragonflies and damselflies, because they've been here with us for 300 million years. Tim, you'll probably correct me, which is 295 million years more than we have, even started our evolution. So they are survivors. the best hunters in the world. They've got a 95% success rate in hunting, much more so than the big cats, which is about 30%, 35%. So they are the apex, for me, the apex insect.
I think I've really grown to love ants. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. The jack jumper ant in the Australian episode reminds me of we have these Swiss Army penknives over here. I don't know if you have that, kind of like a multi-tool. And the jack jumper can do everything. It can jump, it can fight fire, it can surf, it uses landmarks to work out where its home is. It builds nests a metre underground to keep out of the way of bushfires. A very cool animal. So I've really come around to ants on this series.
Yeah, and now, due to the show, I now know that dragonflies are some of the fastest. So if a dragonfly is chasing me, I definitely will not get away. In the bug apocalypse.
I think you're not in danger of being chased by a dragonfly. When people are always asking me, is this spider dangerous or is this insect dangerous? I always think, yeah, it's only dangerous if you happen to be a small fly, and you don't look like a small fly, so I think you're safe.
How big were the dragonflies 300 million years ago? Weren't they pretty big, Tim, during the dinosaurs' time?
They were, yeah. So they were one of the largest insects that ever lived, and so it's they had the wingspan of an eagle that would be flying around in these tropical forests. The fact that they've other than a slight change in size, obviously they've got to smaller to a more manageable size, but they've been pretty much the same kind of body shape and form since before the dinosaurs. They've literally seen the dinosaurs come and go.
I've got an idea for season 3.
A prehistoric bugs life.
Yeah, great.
Bill, we talked about, we interviewed for season 1, which, like I said, was an incredible season. You guys got Awkwafina back in, which definitely makes this a lot more lighthearted than it looks on screen as you see other bugs get devoured. Just going through the show and with a lot of the bugs, we learned the lifespan of a lot of these insects are like a week, a few days, and they gotta quick and do everything they need to do within a short period of time. And it really had me thinking compare the lifespan of a bug, compared to us, the human, a good 70 to 100 years now versus like a bug, we take 20 years of our lives to try to do everything, or 20 to 30 years to try to have kids and jobs and stuff like that, whereas though insects like these have a week to get everything done. And I'm sure you guys were shooting this for weeks, months, on every specific thing. Was it any particular insects for this season that really had you thinking just kind of put life into a little bit more perspective for you?
Well, it's interesting what you say about the length of a bug's life. I mean, damselflies and dragonflies are an interesting case in point. We kind of think they're only up in the air for a day or two, but actually they'll have spent months underwater, maybe a year or maybe 2, as in a larval form. So, in the winter in this country, you don't see many damselflies and dragonflies around. They are around, they're just underwater. And their life down there is a little bit more murky and more difficult than when they come out and they look so beautiful. So, what's the question again?
It's just different. It's just timescales on your perspective on it. What you said, Terrell, was really interesting, was that you're comparing insects' life to our lives. You're absolutely right in that all the stories are very relatable. So, you're growing up. In the beach episode, you're finding a new home. In the forest episode, you're looking for love, looking for relationship. And in the Australia one, it's a changing world. Everything that's so pertinent to our lives from beginning to end. So the insects are going through, as you said, exactly the same processes, just on a completely different time scale. But that relatability in an entertaining way is what we were really aiming for. So bugs are just like us. They're going through the same life stages and the same challenges, the same issues. They've just got amazing superpowers that, oh my God, I wish we all had.
It's that exciting thing for me too, that when you think of a stereotypical wildlife documentary, we've had this history of focusing on things like lions and orangutans, those animals that are much more closely related to us. But we're at this period in the world of filmmaking where all of a sudden now we've got these techniques, we've got this technology, and we can unlock all of these stories in the lives of these smaller animals that have been there under our noses all of this time, but we just haven't had those tools to be able to tell them. And of course, it's the case when it comes to insects, rather than just an individual species, is that the more you learn about them, the more you realize that we're actually the strange ones. that those ways of being an insect where you live as an adult for just a few days or a few weeks, that's actually the normal way to be a living thing on planet Earth, to be a complex living thing on planet Earth. And the way that we do things is actually really, really strange. So it's a bug's world, never mind just a bug's life.
Absolutely, exactly where I was getting at with that. Last question. With, you guys show a lot of scenes where humans are interacting with the kind of the ecosystem of the bug's life. Have you noticed, like, while you were filming this show, how much of it a change you had? I mean, I know you try to stay away from everything as you film, but how much of a small change that you had just, walking through these forests or walking through the waters and the ponds, stuff like that it had to a bug's life or the ecosystem of a bug?
I guess you could put it in a long-term context. When I grew up as a kid, you go on a drive and the windscreen would be covered in bugs when you got to the end of the journey, and you'd be using the windscreen wipers to wipe them off. That doesn't happen these days, does it? I mean, even in my lifetime, I think bugs have declined. Well, even in the last 20 years, I'm older than that, bugs have declined by 60% in many places around the world, including Britain. So there is a big change going on, and it's really important that people realise this. So hopefully, they'll have a bit of fun watching this series, but there are some very important messages. If we don't look after our bugs and they all disappear, that's the key part of the food chain. There are bigger animals that people might notice a bit more are going to disappear. They pollinate our food, they clear away our waste. It's a big deal.
Yeah, everything serves a purpose. The circle of life. Not to get all into another series, but yeah, everything serves a purpose. Martha, I want to ask you, for season 2, I know that was my last question. For season 2, what would you say, we're getting to work with Bill and Tim, like what's been your favorite thing of just the production side of season 2 so far for you?
For me, it's because I'm not involved day to day on the ground with the cameras and on location. It is crafting. What I find really lovely is the footage comes back and it's the crafting with the team and the people who've dedicated 2 or 3 years of their life to this. I just come in the last steps of it in terms of hands-on, and it's crafting the stories and getting the very, very best story out of the material that the teams have captured. I really, really enjoy that. It's really collaborative, it's very creative, and it's fun. So yeah, that's it. And I mean, I'm not going to land on a program because I think they're all fantastic. You have funny characters like the tiger beetle on the beach. You have the romantic lunar moth type stories. You have the weird and the wonderful in the pond. I just think, the diversity that we managed to capture, or the team managed to capture, and yeah, it's just amazing. I think what they've managed to do with Tim's help. Thank you.
Don't forget the survivalists in Australia.
And the survivalists in Australia, they have a tough old time out there.
Yeah,
they do.
Well, I want to thank all 3 of you for doing this interview with me today. I really appreciate you. This has been informative. Season 2 has been great. Like I said, it looks great. The time that you guys spent on this is absolutely well worth it. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me today. Bill, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Look forward to season 3.
I hope so.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Terrell.
Thank you.
Bye.
Witty.